Hey guys, I'm working on biodiversity. What's it to you? This is my son's garden, and he has some biodiversity, but not a lot because he only has about 7 or 8 different species of vegetables in this garden. Biodiversity is necessary for life. As you know, different environments or habitats support different varieties of organisms. Here's some turkeys at the feeder and a deer at the feeder, and they're both there for corn. Every species is linked with many others in ecosystems' food webs, including plants and animals of other species. So these two are both linked because they both want corn. Turkeys eat other things too, and so do deer, but they really like the corn. And they are also preyed upon by coyotes, so they're linked in that way as well by predator. Biodiversity contributes to the sustainability of an ecosystem. If you have higher biodiversity, you have a more sustainable ecosystem, and it's going to be healthier in the long run. This shows a picture of cactus, and it's just a variety. My point for the picture is if there's a greater variety of genes and species, then the ecosystem is better able to carry out natural processes, even when faced with external stresses like a drought or a fire. If you have lower or less biodiversity, then the ecosystem is going to be less sustainable. So a disease could wipe out the system. And going back to the tomato plants, a few years ago, we couldn't grow tomatoes in the garden because of a disease that causes the fruit to rot. Since the disease stays in the soil, we had to burn the old plants and till the soil. And after a time, we found a variety that's resistant to the tomato wilt, a new kind of tomato, and we tried again and were successful. Now, what you're going to do is watch 2 video clips and create a comic strip to teach about biodiversity hotspots in a fun way. Thank you.
News. They cover just a tiny portion of the planet, only 2% of all our land, but they're home to more than half the plant and animal species on Earth. They're called biodiversity hotspots because they're in grave danger. Now conservationists are coming to the rescue. They've mapped out 17 of these so-called hotspots, each home to plant and animal life that's found nowhere else. If any one of them disappears, thousands of species will be lost forever.
They're the areas that deserve bonus points, very special attention in any efforts to conserve biodiversity worldwide. All of the hotspots have under 25% of original natural vegetation remaining. In some cases, only 1 to 5% of original habitat remains.
Most of the hotspots are in the tropics, and most are rainforests. They're disappearing because of destruction by humans, including unsustainable logging, the burning of jungle areas to create farmland, and uncontrolled development. Some hotspots stand out as top priorities, like the island of Madagascar, home of the remaining 50 species of lemurs. Conservationists are working to see that all the biodiversity hotspots are protected, to ensure that this planet's rich and diverse natural wealth is carried safely into the next century.
There is a tendency to descend into gloom and doom. But what we have with the threatened hotspots approach is a way of making this biodiversity crisis that much more manageable. And that is why we are recommending that these threatened hotspots receive maximum international attention in the years to come.
Conservationists are working to see that all the biodiversity hotspots are protected, to ensure that this planet's rich and diverse natural wealth is carried safely into the next century. And that's Animal Planet News.
The human heart, just over 1% of your body weight, but critical to your survival. Our Earth has places, just over 1% of its surface, which are critical to our survival. They're called biodiversity hotspots, and Conservation International is fighting to protect them before they disappear forever. These hotspots are home to over 60% of the world's species, plants and animals that provide food and medicine, that clean our air and water, that keep our planet alive. Conservation International is a hands-on, get-it-done organization. We involve science, business, governments, and local people to get results. Conservation International has helped save millions of acres and hundreds of species. It's working. 1% may not seem like much, but sometimes it can make all the difference in the world, literally. Find out more